This is the math homework for May 1st. We're on page 909. You need your protractor for this assignment. The homework helper example just is going over how to draw a ray. So remember, you need to mark your endpoint and your ray. Use your protractor to find the measurement mark and then connect the 2 points to make your second ray. All right, we're going to go down to the practice. It says draw an angle for each measure. So the first measure is 65 degrees. So I'm going to start by making my endpoint and my ray. 65 degrees is less than 90, so I know that my angle is going to be acute when I'm done drawing it. So I'm going to line up my center point and my end point and my ray. I'm going to look on this side of the protractor at these numbers, because if I make my dot and my ray here, it's going to be acute. So 65 falls directly between 60 and 70, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. I'm going to connect those two dots using a guide, draw my second ray, and mark my angle. That's a 65 degree angle. Number 2, we're going to make an angle that is 140 degrees. So I'm going to make my endpoint and my ray. 140 degrees is greater than 90, so my angle that I'm drawing is going to be obtuse. So I'm going to line up my center point and my end point and my ray with my protractor. Obtuse means I'm going larger than 90, so I'm going this way. 140 is right here. I'm going to make a mark. I'm going to use my guide to connect the dots. I'm going to make my second ray and mark my angle. Okay, on page 910, you are going to do number 3 and number 4 on your own. Remember, you're marking your endpoint, drawing your ray, and then deciding is it acute or obtuse, marking it using your protractor, make your second ray. We're going to do number 5 together. So we have to draw an angle that is greater than 5 degrees and less than 25 degrees. So this can be a measurement of 10 degrees, 15 degrees, 20 degrees, any number as long as it's between 5 and 25. So I'm going to make an endpoint and a ray. I'm going to line up my center point, my end point, and my ray. And I'm going to look here. I'm going to go with 20 degrees because I know that that falls between 5 degrees and 25 degrees. I'm going to use a guide to connect and make my second ray, mark my angle. And I'm going to mark it that it's 20 degrees because it wasn't telling me that. It's the number that I picked. Okay, you're going to do the same thing on your own for number 6, only this time you need to make an angle that is greater than 90 and less than 120. So any number between 90 and 120. It could be 100, 110, 115. Any one of those numbers will work. Draw your endpoint and your ray, line up your protractor, find your mark, connect. All right, moving on to number 7. It says, what type of angle is formed by joining an acute angle and a right angle? So let's draw it. So if I draw a right angle measures 90 degrees. So I can line this up that's my right angle, it's 90 degrees. And it says if I join to that right angle an acute angle, so an acute angle is anything less than 90, so maybe I want to add on a 10-degree angle. So if I line this up and I go to 10 degrees, okay, so I made a 90-degree angle and then I made a 10-degree angle. So I joined a right angle and an acute angle. So what type of angle did I just make? If I'm looking at just my outside rays, because now that I joined those, I made a whole new angle. It would be this whole measure here. So what type of angle did I just form by putting those two together? Well, now my angle is larger than 90 degrees, right? So what type of angle is that? It's obtuse. So on your line, you could write if an acute angle is joined by a right angle, it forms an obtuse angle. Okay, number 8. It says Lila draws a 145-degree angle, then she divides it into 3 smaller angles. One of the smaller angle measures is 65. The other 2 are equal in measure. What is the measure of the other 2 angles? So we can draw that. 145 is larger than 90. Be over here, that's going to be a little tricky. Okay, part of this, it says, is a 65-degree angle. So I could then go back and draw a 65-degree angle. Okay, so this angle here of my 145 degrees is 65. So that means this section here, are also going to be broken into 2 equal parts. So each one of these angle measures must be the same measurement. Now you could try to use your protractor and get equal numbers, or we could write a little number sentence to help us with this. So the whole amount that she drew, the biggest amount was 145 degrees. Then it tells us that one of the parts of this angle that she divided into 3 sections was 65. So we can take away or subtract that 65 degrees from our 145 degrees. Okay, so let's plug that in a calculator, and we would get 80. So this big chunk here, this big angle that we're left with, is 80 degrees. But there were 3 parts that she divided this angle into. So we need the measure for both of these parts. The key word here in our sentence is 2 equal in measure. So if they're equal in measure and there's 2 of them, that means we can take this 80 degrees and divide it by 2. So if we take 80 degrees, divide it by 2, punch that in your calculator, you will get 40 degrees. So each one of these angle measures is 40 degrees. Okay, last one, test practice. It says, which is the correct drawing of a 160-degree angle? So I give you a little hint here. It's either C or D. So you might need your protractor to measure and figure it out, or you might think about 160 degree angle is what type of an angle.